Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Humans of Heritage. I am your host, Adam Gilfillan. I am extremely excited to be here again with you today with a guest that I can't wait to learn more about. We were talking before the camera started rolling and discovered who her husband is, and he was a basketball ref that I had many years ago, and always enjoyed being around him in basketball games. And so now I can't wait even more to hang out with his wife here and talk about life with her and her journey through this life. Before we get into that interview, if you haven't had a chance to see any of our previous episodes, we've already interviewed a principal, a teacher, twin students from India, and there have been some incredible stories, incredible feedback. And so if you have a chance to listen to those episodes, go ahead and do that. And who knows, maybe someday you might be a guest here on Humans of Heritage, and I would absolutely love to hear your story. But today's story I'm excited about. I told you I know who her husband is, and it's my first time having an opportunity to meet her and reading a bit of her story and the journey to get to where she is today, the challenges, the discovery as a kid about what she wanted to be, all those kinds of things rolled up into this story I think will inspire you, will encourage you. And as I always say, I believe that stories have the ability to change lives, to impact people. And I think today's story will do that for many of you watching and listening. So would you join me today in welcoming our guest, Annie Slight. Annie, welcome to Humans of Heritage.
Thank you so much for having me.
We talked a bit before, as I said, and we discovered that you started at Richelieu Valley High School right after I left Richelieu Valley High School. And I believe you started here when it became Heritage, probably in my last time really being here, helping out coaching in basketball. And then we discovered Norm, your husband, was a VP here before.
He was.
I knew him not as the VP, I knew him as a really good referee in basketball, and spent many December Classics or January Classics at the Polyvalent in St. Bruno, getting to know him in that format. But I'm excited to get to know a little bit more about you today. As I mentioned previous, that I had a chance to read a bit of your story and to know a little bit about who you are. To start, I would love for you to let people know, a little bit more who you are, what you do here at Heritage, how long you've been here, and maybe even a bit of the journey to get here. And then we'll talk about some more things as we go along. So let everybody know who you are.
So kids know me as Miss Slight.
Okay.
I'm Annie Slight. I work in the planning room here. I'm part of student services.
Okay.
So my day is never the same. I never know who's going to walk through the door. I deal with students, whatever they need. I'm pretty much one of these people. I'm not by myself. I'm one of these people. Students sent out of class for whatever reason, students feeling anxious, some issues with friends, whatever they need. I'm one of these people that, the kids walk through my door, and then we deal with whatever the issue is. So that's pretty much what I do here. I started in high school 25 years ago at Penfield Academy in Brossard. Loved it. Very, very small school, 240 something students. So very different from here, where we have 1,700 and change. Then it closed, so I moved to Richelieu Valley Regional, and then that closed. So then we merged here with McDonald Cartier, and that became Heritage in 2003, and I've been here since.
Awesome. For many of us, as kids, we have this dream of doing something with our future. I'm sure at one point in my life I wanted to be a wrestler, but these biceps don't do that kind of work. But in reality, we dream about being something. And I know for you, for a long time, you wanted to be an elementary school teacher.
Yeah.
What was it about being an elementary school teacher that said, I want to do that with my life?
I was a good student. Shy, I'm not anymore, but I was shy. I was a good student. I had a younger brother, and from, I would say, grade 1, as I was learning, I started teaching him. He was about 2.5 years younger than me. So I started just teaching him, and I just continued through, and it just became, I loved it. It just became a passion, and I just thought, that's what I'm going to do. And I grew up until CEGEP, thinking that was my career path.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't.
Was there a specific subject that you liked, or just teaching in general?
Just teaching in general. I just enjoyed, teaching.
Yeah.
I enjoyed learning, and I enjoyed teaching.
Awesome. And I know you went off to school to become a teacher. Well, at first to become a teacher, but you
At first, yeah.
discovered psychology.
Yes, in CEGEP.
In CEGEP, and you decided to make a career change, possibly.
Possibly, I thought I just discovered a passion.
Yeah.
I loved everything mental health, anything, helping people. So I thought, well, this is it. So I applied to University of Montreal in psychology. I got in, and off I went.
Yeah.
But then that wasn't it.
So what changed? I know you said to me that you couldn't imagine yourself just sitting in an office,
Right.
and doing that for a living. So what about that made you say, because you're working around people,
Yes.
and yes, being in an office, but it would still be around people and possibly encouraging, teaching, revealing some things to people. So what about that specifically where you're like, I just don't think that's the right fit for me?
Part of it was the schooling, what you had to go through to be a psychologist. So the 3 years of the bachelor's degree was only theory. There was no stages, no internships. And I thought, oh my God, like I felt it was heavy.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I'm going to like it because I'm not doing anything in terms of, job training, if you want. So I was like, no, I just felt it was heavy, and I didn't know anything about psychoeducation.
Yeah.
Not many people do. It's
Yeah.
it's actually a program only offered in Quebec. It started
Okay.
in Quebec, and as of now, as far as I know, it's still only offered in Quebec. I literally found a pamphlet on a table in a cafeteria. That really, when things are meant to be
Yes.
sometimes. I just found a pamphlet and I started reading, and oh my God, now this is it. Now I know this is it. They talked about you can work with youth, you can work with families, you can work with parents, you can work with elderly, and I was like, oh my God, like just working amongst people
Yeah.
and helping, being that person. So yeah, that was it, and it's been it.
So again, you went to psychology, couldn't see that as a future, but you found psychoeducation.
Yes.
And you knew that there was a desire to help people.
Absolutely.
And to work alongside not just an individual, but their families as well.
Yes.
So I know that you went into working with children with autism.
I did.
And was that at a school you did that?
Yeah, I was finished. Actually, I did 3 different stages throughout my bachelor's. Both hired me, but I was part-time. I was still studying, and right after I finished my bachelor's, I continued working a bit part-time. And then there was a job offer at Giant Steps School at the time in Westmount.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why not? I had no experience in autism, but I mean, I had training, and so I said, let me just try that.
So when I left the South Shore to move to Ontario, I worked with some different group homes and working with individuals who had, from high functioning lifestyles to they need every bit of help, to feeding, to bathing, to changing, all that kind of stuff. And it was a challenge. And I'll be honest to say, in my early 20s, I would call home sometimes with tears saying, I don't know if I'm cut out to do this. Like, I remember some of the individuals that I worked with, and I'm thankful for the opportunity that I had.
Right.
But it wasn't what I saw my life in that direction, I should say. And I realized just, how difficult and challenging that was for me emotionally to work in this lifestyle. So for you, working with students who potentially could be more challenging than working with students who would just be here at school.
Right.
Students with autism, tell me what it was like on a day-to-day almost. Like what was that experience for you working with students that it's not just your everyday, high school students?
Well, every day was very different.
Yes.
We had children that were, 5, 6 years old, and we had teenagers up to around 17, 18. So how it worked at the time is that I was assigned 1 or 2 students, and I would bring them to their elementary school where they lived for a couple of days a week or half days, depending on every child. And the rest I would be at Giant Steps, just shadowing pretty much, accompanying through different activities or therapies.
Okay.
So it was, let's just say it prepared me for pretty much anything that this field of work can bring. I loved it. I met just wonderful people. I mean, we're talking early to mid 90s, and I'm still in touch with some of them.
Yes.
So it was just such a great time in my life. I learned so much. It was challenging psychologically, physically. You know, you get bitten sometimes, you get kicked, you got my hair pulled. You know, it's a lot. It was a lot, but yet so rewarding. And like I said, I learned so much. I met families, I've met children that I still remember to this day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have a friend, Anna White. She works a lot with kids with autism and was a part of an organization called Awesome that helped students or kids on that spectrum to get into sports and even hopefully get them into sports with kids who aren't on the spectrum to try and integrate them into that life, which I thought is incredible work. And I know that this month being Autism Awareness Month, and I'm curious, you say you learned some things, and even going into the job, you said, I didn't really ever have any experience working with people with autism. So what were some of the biggest takeaways, some of the things that you learned as you were working in that environment?
Good question. I think going with the flow, because you never knew, right? There was different challenges like throughout the days. Being flexible, setting limits and boundaries, and being assertive. Because some of these kids, you know, I mean, they were just wonderful. Like I remember, as I'm talking to you, I'm remembering some of them, and it was, I just loved them, and I learned to care for these humans that, you know, weren't my children, but almost felt like they were when they were with me, because, you know, I was very protective and I was very, very invested in their lives, and I mean, you know, it just prepared me for my career. I find.
What would you say at the end of the day? You're driving your car back home. You can look back at that day and say, today was a good day. What was it that made a good day? Because you say that you could be bit, you could have.
Oh
things,
yeah, I mean,
right?
it happened.
So those are difficult moments.
Absolutely.
So for you, what was the moment where it was today was a really good day?
A smile from the child.
Yeah.
A child reaching, grabbing my hand.
Yeah.
Small success in school. Tiny, smallest improvement, but that I knew for them it was a big effort. Parents writing me a note, because we would, at the time, you know, no phones, nothing like that. So it was like, you know, through a journal, like writing back and forth, okay, you know, she had a tough night or whatever. And then I would write back, and to just write like, oh my God, like last week we had a difficult time and now we redid this activity and it went so well. And just to send that home, and knowing that those parents who, you know, face challenges would get such good news, like that was just highlights.
So one more question about that school and that time of your life. For many individuals, we can go through a lot of our life not experiencing having to work with somebody who has autism. And maybe even sometimes not even associate with them, not intentionally, because we just might not know somebody. For somebody who is, you know, having a conversation with somebody who would be on that spectrum, you know, what are some things that we should know as individuals when, you know, having that kind of friendship or building a friendship with somebody who would be on the spectrum? What are some things that can help us do that better, maybe?
You know, I don't necessarily see like, okay, this person has autism. I just see a person.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, we're all different, right? We all communicate differently.
Yes.
We all go through emotions differently. So just kind of going with where they are and how they communicate, and understanding that sometimes, you know, there could be some cues that maybe they may miss. But, you know, to me, it's people, it's humans. And, you know, they're just, they have their differences, but don't we all?
Yeah.
And, just,
true.
you know,
I have this one, he's now in his 20s, but I've known him since he was, you know, 16 years old. His name is Spencer, and he would be on that spectrum, and he's very high functioning.
We're probably thinking of the same Spencer.
But Spencer is, you know, I get FaceTime phone calls from him all the time. Like, we're still friends, and we go to movies together, all that kind of stuff. And it is a very, I enjoy my time with him, and I love what you say, which is how I see Spencer is. There's nothing different. He's a person.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes what happens is we put people into boxes, and we so to speak, segregate them in a sense.
Yeah.
But in reality, we are I think what happens to us that we do wrong is that we do that where we should just see people, like you said, as people.
Yeah.
And we approach them that way. Sure, there might be certain things that, work for different people, but
Of course.
that's every person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate you sharing a bit about your work there. How has that prepared you for where you are now, working in a high school, working with students who maybe had a bad day and they're sent out of class or whatever? How has that helped you?
I think the daily challenges that we faced and the unknown, because like I said, I had different students that I would do different things with.
Yeah.
So I never kind of knew, like, is it a good day? Is it a bad day? How was their night? How was their morning? So I kind of never knew really what my day was going to look like. Am I going to have, is it going to be successful? Is it going to be more challenging? Is it, So I think that aspect of it just transferred into my work here, never knowing what my day is going to look like, and just taking kids as they come in, as they're feeling, and just taking it from there.
Yeah. I think for students, in my experience, and I think I talked about this with one of my previous interviews, and the idea of trust, that for them to trust you, it takes a few things on our end to show that they can trust us.
Absolutely.
What do you think has been the best asset or tool for you to develop that trust between you and students?
I think I listen well.
Okay.
And I think that students know I'm on their side.
Okay.
At the end of the day. I may not always be happy with, whatever, but I think they know I'm fair, and I listen to them.
Okay.
I like to hear their side of whatever happened, whatever the story is. And I always tell them, I'm here for you. I'll go through a wall for you, but you got to do your part.
Yeah.
I can't do it for you. So I think it's really a partnership. I see my job as really a partnership with the students. It may be very challenging at first, when you just meet them, you got to build that trust, right? But I think that showing up for them and showing them that, I'm going to listen to you, I'm going to do my best to help you, I'll advocate for you, but you got to work with me. Like, it will become partners. So I think that goes a long way into building trust.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen students, not be able to respond to one person and respond to a different person.
Absolutely.
And a lot of it comes through the ability to listen. And it doesn't even mean that other person doesn't want to listen. It's just maybe not connecting with the student in front of them.
Oh, absolutely. And, it could happen that at some point I meet a student and, it doesn't really click. It's not like, they don't like me, I don't like them. It's just that sometimes, there's more affinity with somebody else. And by all means, I'm not here for my ego. I'm not here to be popular. It's just human nature. So, that's why it's important to work as a team and to recognize as a team that sometimes, we may switch it up a little bit, and that's perfectly fine.
I asked this question to your principal, and so I'm curious to know your answer. If your career ended today, right?
Okay.
Again, there's no announcement here. She's not leaving, right?
Nothing.
But if your career were to end today, what do you hope people would say about you?
I would hope they would say that I cared.
Okay.
And that I worked for them, with them and for them, that I was a good advocate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. And you've been here how long? Early 2000s, correct?
Yeah. When it became Heritage.
So, want to transition a little bit outside of education and more into your life.
Yeah.
And there's a story attached to your life,
There
as we
is.
all do. But I know that 2013, things changed. There was this idea of, I know the direction my life is going in. I'm excited about the direction maybe going in, right? And all of us plan and all of us have these expectations and, I'm going to do this and do that. And sometimes on the road to those dreams, we hit a wall and sometimes life tries to take us out a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell our audience today, in 2013, what changed your life?
In 2013, I was in my early 40s. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. totally unexpected. I was, younger than the traditional breast cancer patient that we hear of or that we know. No family history, nothing like that. So I just, came to work on a Thursday, went home, and on a Friday, I was diagnosed, and I returned a little over a year later. I just had to leave and take care of my health.
Yeah. So obviously, I can only imagine the hearing the words that you have cancer.
Yeah.
You're by yourself. I don't know when you first heard with the doctor.
My husband was with me, thankfully.
Okay.
Yeah.
For both you and your husband, but more specifically for you because you're here, what is that feeling when you hear the doctor say those words to you?
You've probably seen that commercial where people get a cancer diagnosis and you see kind of them flying backwards.
Yeah.
Like, that it's pretty much accurate.
Yeah.
I just got panicky. I panicked. And I had to, at some point, because I was thinking, I may die, and I'm so young, and I don't want to die. And then I just mustered the courage to ask the doctor, am I going to die from this? And he told me no.
Okay.
And from then on, I knew I wasn't going to die.
Okay.
He told me no, and that was it. But then he said I would have to do chemotherapy and undergo surgeries and chemotherapy. I mean, nobody wants to hear that they're going to have to do chemotherapy. It's now I talk about it because it's been a few years, but it's still that big word, right? The hair loss, so that really hit me really, really hard.
So you go home that first night. You're laying in bed.
Yeah.
Probably not sleeping.
Oh no, not at all.
What? I know you said, am I going to die from this? And you spoke to the doctor, but that first night, what are you thinking?
After the initial diagnosis, they told me that they would have to look at my body, my bones, my organs, and all that to make sure it had metastasized. So that was scary. So it was just the thought of just don't let it be. Don't let it be that. Just let it be local so that it's treatable.
Yeah.
So it was just fear. It was intense fear and crippling anxiety, honestly, for the first, I would say, couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the process or the timeline for, diagnosed to I'm healthy?
Okay, well, it's a very long process.
Sure.
With breast cancer, some people don't necessarily realize, but in my case, I was diagnosed actually in April of 2013. Started chemo at the end of April, ended in October. But then I was on another intravenous medication. So I was in cancer treatment, like intravenous medication for 15 months total. I underwent a few surgeries, I believe 5, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So I left in April 2013, came back to work progressive April 2014. I was still in treatment, still had to undergo some surgeries, but I said, I want to come back, even if it's 1 or 2 days a week until the end of the school year. I just want to come back slowly, which I did. Yeah. And then in 2014, I was back full time. I'm still on medication. Okay. There's medication I have to take for 10 years.
Okay.
I got a couple of years left. So it's a very, very long process, but I mean, I'm super healthy. I'm what we call NED, no evidence of disease.
Okay.
Because breast cancer people think you do the treatment, after 5 years you're good. Breast cancer is not cancer like that. It's something that you're always at an increased risk of it coming back, sadly. But as every time I get a scan or any testing, whatever, and I'm told that it's NED, no evidence of disease, I feel like it's a rebirth. And I'm good to go for another 6 months until my next appointment. So, yeah.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that things are going well. In this journey,
yes,
and it's one of the reasons why I love what we're doing with this project with Humans of Heritage, because I do believe that stories and people's story have the ability to impact others.
Oh, absolutely.
That your story, and I know this has happened for you, that you become an advocate for those who have gone through this. Our story helps others to be able to cope, to be able to have hope, all of those kinds of things. But in those, months, even maybe a couple of years of going through different things, for you and even for your spouse, where was your support system? Was it friends, family? You know, like where did you go for that encouragement to get you through the long days that were pretty difficult?
I'm happy you asked that question. My husband was just, to this day, he hasn't missed an appointment.
That's awesome.
That's my husband. So definitely him on a day-to-day, you know, minute by minute. My mom, who's a retired nurse.
Okay.
So I had to get injections, you know, after treatments and a bunch of things like that. And my mom was just driving that half hour to come and give me the injections and cook. And so definitely I would say these two people were just, you know, they're my co-survivors.
Yeah.
They're people that were there with me along the way, that are still there with me. You know, I think you learn a lot about people, about who your friends are, who's there for the long run, who's there even if it's raining, you know. So got really new friends out of this. Got rid of some friends.
Yeah.
Along the way. You know, you just learn a lot about people, like how they are with you at your lowest moments. So.
And I can't imagine that would be easy, having to let go of some friends, because the reason why they're friends is because they mean something to you.
Exactly. Exactly. Having to let go or having them let go was very, very, you know, you're grieving a lot. We mourn a lot. During that time, the hair loss, and I mean all the surgeries, and so there's a lot that goes away that you grieve for, but also having to grieve like the people you thought were going to be by my side, like not being there.
Yeah.
That really added to the daily challenges. And you know, unfortunately, I speak to a lot of women, and so many women. Sometimes, you know, husbands leave them, and you know, so it's very challenging.
I'm assuming when you first came back to work after going through some treatments and even progressing with treatments along the way, staff would know that, you know,
Absolutely.
this is what you're going through.
Yes.
I'm curious to know about students. You know,
Right.
Did they know right from the beginning that this happened? Like when a teacher leaves, you know, what happened to
What
our
happened?
teacher?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? When a staff member
Yes.
leaves, what happens? So I guess both staff and students, I'm curious to know what Heritage was like for you during this process.
Yeah.
The staff, I know you have incredible staff here at the school, and
Absolutely.
very supportive
Yeah.
Staff. But I'm curious to know, you know, how you felt, and I'd love to know, you know, that connection with students that this journey brought you towards, right?
Right.
That kind of stuff.
I left at the end of the year.
Okay.
Well, April.
Yeah.
And when I came back, and I had very long hair. When I came back the following April, my hair was obviously very short, was
Yes.
growing back, you know. So that was kind of an indicator, you know, the physical aspect. Some parents did find out because, honestly, I wasn't in any frame of mind to just email people or. But I know that some parents were wondering and were asking, and I've always been very open and vocal about what happened. So it's not something that I announced, but it's something that the school knew that if anybody's asking or if people are wondering, the whole staff knew. I would be getting cards by mail and emails, and the principal would call me all the time to. And I remember actually when I called, and the principal was Kim Barnes at the
Yes.
time. And she, because I had come to visit, you know, from time to time I would come to visit, and she says, "Tell me this is the phone call that I've been waiting for." And I said, I think this is the phone call that you've been waiting for. And she said, "You're coming back?" I said, "I'm coming back." And she wrote the nicest email that I kept, you know, telling the staff that I was on my way back to work on a part-time. And I mean, I was greeted with flowers and
That's great.
Post-its. I kept everything,
Yeah.
you know, and feeling that family atmosphere, feeling that people were genuinely, you know, to be told that Heritage wasn't the same when you weren't here.
Yeah.
Like that's big, you know,
Yeah.
like that. I remember everything that was said to me. I remember how much it meant to me, because
Yeah.
it really did.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to ask that, to hear a principal say the words like, "Is this the phone
this
call I've
the
been
phone
waiting
call?"
for?"
Yeah.
Knowing that this principal is so excited for your journey to bring you back here. What does that make you feel to know that staff are so excited for you to get back at some point?
Well, I knew they were.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? It was never a doubt that, do they miss me or, but it meant so much. It meant that I was coming back to my family.
That's awesome.
So
that's really good. And I don't want to just rush over it, but I know time is a little bit not on our side today. But I'm curious to know. You said that you've now become a voice for individuals who have gone through what you or are going through what you've gone through.
Yes.
So what does that look like? How did that journey start for you, and why did you accept that responsibility?
Okay, so I'll tell you a little briefly because I know time is running, but. So in a nutshell, there's a risk factor for breast cancer. People think, family history, but the vast majority of us don't have any family history. Breast density is a very significant factor, actually more important than a family history of breast cancer. It puts us at higher risk. It's just how breasts are made of, pretty much. It's all normal, but breast density increases your risk of breast cancer and also can have the cancer be missed on a mammogram, which is what happened to me. There was cancer, I had a mammogram, couldn't see it because of dense tissue. So without going into all the medical lingo, so the issue is that in Quebec, women are still not told if they have dense breast tissue, and they're not aware that cancer may be missed on a mammogram, and they're not aware that the risk of cancer is increased by having dense breasts. And that's pretty much what I've been advocating for the past 4 years, meeting with political officials, doing some media interviews, just advocating for breast density notification. That's, women need to know, and they need to advocate for themselves.
Now, we hear all the time, the warning for women to get checked. Do you think or feel that they take that seriously, or is it still something that needs to be to have individuals reminded, hey, make sure you're getting yourself checked?
I think there's a fear. Some women, oh, is it going to hurt? Or what if they find something? Maybe I don't want to know because it's scary, right?
For sure.
But so I think, there needs to be reminders. I think screening needs to start younger than what the program in Quebec, because it starts at 50 and that's really too late. It should start at 40 and earlier for people with other risk factors. So there needs to be reminders, and there needs to be knowledge and information communicated to women so that they know that yes, it can happen before 50 and mammograms should be done yearly. You need to know your breast density, you need to understand all of that so that you can make informed decision. And that's pretty much my other full-time job. I'm here during the day, and at night and weekends, I do a lot of social media, a lot of advocacies and, meetings and things like that.
So for anybody who is watching and listening to this episode, to start that process of discovering and finding out, or testing, I should say, where do they start?
Okay, well, in Quebec, when you turn 50, you'll get that letter saying that now you're in the program, and it's every 2 years you get a mammogram up to 69. That window should be much, much, much wider. And women don't know that at 40, they can actually, the decision to start screening is theirs to make, not their doctor's. So even if the doctor refuses, you have a right to get screened for breast cancer. Most lives are saved when screening is done yearly, as of 40. So women don't know that, they're not told. They're told every 2 years as of 50. After 69, again, it's your choice to continue, and you definitely should continue because breast cancer, increases with age, and it's really important to continue past 69 also. And again, it's your choice to advocate. You'll need a medical referral from your doctor. In Quebec, that's mandatory, but it is your choice. So be proactive and be assertive, and Google Dense Breast Canada, and I mean, you'll find all kinds of good information.
Was it Breast Dense Canada?
Dense Breasts Canada.
Okay, all right.
There's a website, there's a Facebook. I mean, we're very...
Now, I want to say, first of all, I'm really thankful for you being transparent with your story and
Thank you.
sharing some things that are personal.
Of course.
And allowing, you know, staff, students, and beyond to hear your journey as an educator, as, you know, somebody who's gone through some tough moments in life. But one question I love to ask,
Yes.
and I told you that I'd be asking this question, and that is, if you can go back to high school you. Now, I know, again, you've been through some things in life, and so you've learned a lot about what life looks like for you.
Yes.
From what was supposed to be to what it became,
Yes.
to where it is now. If you can go back to high school you and ask tell yourself about life, what would you say?
You did tell me you were going to ask me that. That's a tough one, but a really good one. I think the first thing that comes to mind would be trust your gut. You know, I had a feeling something was wrong, but I trusted my doctors, and
Yeah.
I should have pushed. I'm not blaming myself because I just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know,
For
right?
sure.
But trust your gut, follow your gut, and possibly you're stronger than you think you are.
Okay.
So hang in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, stronger than you think you are. I heard a story recently. I was at a conference and they talked about this one individual. You know, the whole point of this illustration was we put ceilings on ourselves and prevent ourselves from doing more. And they talked about this one individual, and I won't try and pronounce his name, like I wouldn't be able to tell you, but he climbed Mount Everest.
Okay.
And everyone just thinks, okay, a lot of people have climbed Mount Everest, but you
Yeah.
find out that he was blind. And he
Oh,
climbed Mount
wow.
Everest.
Okay.
And I agree, you know, that oftentimes we can do more than we think we can. And we limit ourselves
For
way
sure.
too often. But we should understand that when we feel like we had enough, we could probably go a little bit further.
Oh, absolutely. And just a quick anecdote. I started CrossFit in my 50s.
Okay.
So, you know, like there's no limits to
Yes.
what we can accomplish.
I have not done CrossFit, and it tells with my one rule here. That's what it is. Okay, but again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I hope that from this, people feel educated, but also feel inspired and encouraged as they take on life's journey and what it throws at them. So I appreciate you being here with us today.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Again, this has been Humans of Heritage. I am your host, Adam. What a great story today from Annie, from Miss Slight, and I'm really happy that she had the opportunity to share. Again, if you didn't write it down, go rewind it and go back and listen to some of the advice she gave on getting yourself checked as you know, as you reach that age of 40 and beyond, and know what you have rights towards. But again, this is about people's story. This is about the stories from inside the walls of Heritage and the lives that are here, the lives that are shaping the culture in this school. And my hope is that you've heard this story today, that you would feel inspired to share your story, whether it be the successes in life, whether it be the frustrating moments in life, that you would feel strong and courageous enough to share your story, because your story needs to be heard, because your story can change somebody's life. So again, thank you for listening to Humans of Heritage, and we will see you at our next episode. Thank you very much.